Hey, so recently I bought this MacBook Pro 16-inch 2019 on eBay for £445. And I thought I'd talk about it in this video, just in case anyone's wondering whether or not these 16-inch models from 2019 are worth it in 2023, 2024. So just to give you an overview of this machine, it's a MacBook Pro 2019 16-inch. It's got an i7, this one's got an i7 9750H processor, 16 gigabytes of RAM, and it has, this one has a 512 gigabyte SSD, and it's got 4 USB-C ports. Now, the thing with the MacBook Pro 2019 is that they were renowned for their heat issues. And there's a few things with this laptop that you need to be aware about if you are going to buy it. Now, I previously used a MacBook Pro 2015, 15.6 inch, which was really getting on. And I thought it's time for something new. So I've tried a few different MacBooks since then. I've tried the 2019 16-inch, which is this one, and I've also tried the M1 13-inch, which I have here, which I really like this machine, by the way, but this video isn't about that machine. It's about this machine. So the question is this worth it in 2023, now 2024? So there are some benefits, or there are some reasons, rather, why people do go with Intel, and that's to do with boot camp. If you want to run Windows, a lot of people are still getting these 2019s, and that's one reason why you might want to get a 2019. Another reason is because not everything is about processing power. If you have a machine past like 2016, chances are you've got enough processing power for most of the things you need to do. You don't really, a lot of the time, you don't need the processing power that's in like some of these M1s and M2s and M3s. You can actually get away, in terms of CPU performance, you can get away with like, you know, stuff from even 2015. It isn't too bad. Some people still use stuff from 2011, right? And they still do everything they need to do. So there are some benefits. And for me, I'll be honest with you, I'm probably not going to keep this 2019 16-inch. And the only reason is for me is because I've realized that it's a little bit bigger than what I need. But there are some benefits. And one of them, for instance, is that you can get a really good deal on eBay for what these are. These were £2,400 machines, and they're selling for like 400, 500 now in 2023, 2024. They're selling for like less than £500. And some of these, and for that price, some of them, you know, you can get 32 gigabytes of RAM, 1 terabyte storage, and the i7 in these is still fast. In fact, the GPU in these, the AMD Radeon, can outperform some of the M1 chips. So it's not like a bad machine. Moving on to the benchmarks, and for the disk speed test, I got 2,642 megabytes a second on writes, and I got 2,769 on reads, which is around about or a little bit better than the MacBook Pro M1. Moving on to the Cinebench R23 scores now, and the MacBook Pro 2019 16-inch gets 1,119 on the single core speeds, and it gets 6,766 on the multi-core speeds, which isn't bad for, I mean, it's the best among Intel Macs, but it's lagging behind M1 pretty badly, but that's just because M1 is such a powerful chip. So in single core performance, compared to the M1 2020 13-inch, it's lagging behind by around 30%. But again, compared to most other Intel Macs, it's fairly good. For the GeekBench 6 scores, the 2019 scores a respectable 1,438 on the single core score and a 5,742 on the multi-core. In comparison, the MacBook Pro 2015 15-inch gets a score of 3,749 on the multi-core, which is 41% slower than the 2019. As for the GeekBench 6 GPU score, in metal we get a score of 25,737, which is actually slower than the MacBook Pro M1 2020, even though I said that in some cases MacBook Pro M1 can actually get a better GPU score. If you wanted a better GPU score on the 2019 16-inch, you need to get higher than the base model AMD. This one has the AMD Radeon 5500, which is the base model. But if you go with a higher spec model, then yeah, you can beat the M1. As far as temperatures go, under load you can expect up to 100 degrees Celsius. The battery in this model is 100 watt hours, and in my testing you can expect over 8 hours, and according to Notebook Check, according to their tests, you can get up to 8 to around 11 hours of real use, which is pretty good for an Intel machine. I think one of the issues with this machine is that at the time Apple were trying to make everything thin, right? And so this is a 2 kilo machine with an i7 9750H. And to be honest with you, I would not consider going with any more powerful chip than this. This is the lowest i7 they did for this model. And like, if you're gonna get an i9 in one of these, it's just pointless, like in my opinion, because the i7 already can't, like there's already too much heat for the i7. Like if you're gonna go with an i9 or even one of the higher spec i7s, like it just doesn't make any sense to me. Like you might get a little bit more performance, but like you're just gonna get even more heat, and there's already too much heat on the lowest i7 for this. Like it already gets to 100 degrees Celsius if you're not careful, and then it's already going to throttle. So you're just, in my opinion, there's just no reason to get the higher spec CPU. The only reason I go with a higher spec is if you got the higher RAM amount and the higher SSD if you needed it. But in terms of the cons, there are cons with this machine, and it's just the heat. Like it's just, and even though like, okay, so I came from a MacBook Pro 2015, right? And that thing would run at like 100 degrees Celsius, just browsing YouTube and stuff like that. And that's why, one of the reasons why I was looking at this machine, because I didn't want to get a 16-inch M1 because they were still like really expensive. And they're also like kind of overkill, I think, for a lot of uses. You probably don't need like one of those 10 to 16 core M1s a lot of the time, and a lot of people that think they do probably don't. But yeah, another con of this is like, I think the problem for me is that I've already used M1, so when you go back to this, it feels really bad, but it's not actually that bad compared to like the 2015. Like it's still much better than the 2015. Like if you're using a 2011 to 2015, these are still a really good upgrade. Like if you can get this for like under £400, like, or under 500 maybe, then it's really good. Like that's really good. The problem is that when you go and use an M1 and you realize that the M1 has no fan, like it doesn't ever switch on the fan for like 99% of what you do, and it runs at a normal temperature and it runs flawlessly with no lag and perfectly. And then you use this and it's like spinning up the fans and it's like, you know, maybe I should have spent a little bit more on the M1. And that's the problem, is that, yeah, you can get this for 400 if you're lucky. 450 is what 445 is what I got this for. So you can get this for cheap, but you can get, if you spend another 150, you can get an M1 13-inch if you're lucky. Like if you look out on the auctions and stuff, you can get the M1. So that's the problem. Yeah, if you're gonna get this, then you have to get it on a really good deal. Otherwise, it's like you're kind of, you know, you might have some regret that you didn't get the M1. So all in all, is the 2019 16-inch worth buying in 2024? And my opinion is, obviously, it depends on the price. If you can get this machine for less than, say, 400 to maybe 500 pounds, I'd say it's still actually pretty good. Especially if you can get 32 gigs of RAM or like a terabyte of SSD, like it's still a really good machine. Like it still does everything you need it to do. And there are ways that you can improve the thermals on this machine. But that's beyond the scope of this video. But yeah, all in all, I'd say this machine is still worth it if you can get it at the right price. However, if you can spend a little bit more and get the M1, then you probably will want to do that. So again, it really depends on the price. But yeah, not everything is about that processing power. Like you might need more RAM and storage, and you might want a bigger screen size at a lower cost. So if that's the case, you could still go with it. Like it's not a bad machine. It's still better than most laptops ever made. Like it's still an amazing machine. And to get it for like 400 pounds, that is a really good deal. So if you have any questions about the MacBook 2019 16-inch, feel free to let me know in the comments.